need to have a serious conversation about what is going on with Tottenham Hotspur, Thomas Frank, the dressing room, and certain players. Could Tottenham's season be in trouble? Are the players turning on Thomas Frank? Is it just a general media overreaction? Are Tottenham fans right to be calling for Thomas Frank's head already? Or is that a little bit harsh? We're going to discuss all of that in today's video because I do feel there is some issues with Tottenham. Now, first of all, I just think a big issue Tottenham have is attack. And I think a lot of it is due to just not having that much quality in attack. There's no Solanke, there's no Kulusevski, there's no James Maddison. You know, for most of this season, Thomas Frank's options have been Matisse Tell, Odegaard, Richarlison, and Kudus. Now, Kudus has been mint. I'm not so sure about the others. So I do think considering you're 5th right now and you were 17th, people calling for Thomas Frank out and saying that they would want Ange back, I think it's a bit nuts. I think it's a bit nuts. I'm not going to lie. The football you played versus Chelsea yesterday was disgraceful. It was atrocious. It was awful. Some of the football you are playing is atrocious. It is sending me to sleep. But I don't think you can completely blame Thomas Frank. I don't think you've got that much quality in attack. And look, I think with clubs like Tottenham, and it's been the same at Man United, for me, I get to a point where we've gone through so many managers, I back the managers over players. And I think Mickey Van der Ven is one of the best centre-backs in the whole wide world. I think he's fantastic. I think Djed Spence has been brilliant. But when I see stuff like this, and Mickey Van der Ven is vice-captain in supposed leadership squad at Tottenham, I think this, in my opinion, is a disgrace by the Tottenham players. And I'm going to talk about what this means and why this could be harmful. We're then going to talk about Thomas Frank. We're then going to talk about your performance versus Chelsea and more. But Chris Cowling posted a video of Djed Spence and Mickey Van der Ven walking straight past Thomas Frank. Djed Spence completely ignores him. Mickey Van der Ven gives him a look. But it's not good. It's not good. Thomas Frank was asked about it and he said, I understand why you asked the question, but that's one of the small issues. They are 2 of his best performers this season, which is correct. They've been 2 of Tottenham's best performers this season. The attack is what's let Tottenham down this season, bar Kudus. But for me, I think it's disrespectful. I've seen Tottenham fans say, yeah, but the manager's tactics are rubbish. They're right to show the frustration. I think it's disrespectful to the manager. I think Thomas Frank got it completely wrong versus Chelsea. The reason I didn't make a match reaction yesterday is because I was so bored because you were so boring to watch. And you have been boring to watch at times this season. But you're 5th. You were 17th last season. You don't have a good attack. 3 of your best attackers are out injured. I think, Man United last season were appalling to watch going forward. We replaced Garnacho with Cunha. We replaced Anthony with Mbumo and Højlund with Sesko. And Man United, look at the difference that's made. That's what you need to do. But for the players to not say thanks to the fans that had to watch that atrocious performance versus Chelsea, to ignore the manager at full time in front of the whole stadium for everyone to see, which is going to add media attention, I thought was appalling for the players. And I think Mickey Van der Ven as vice-captain in the leadership group is not a good look. Djed Spence has been brilliant this season. There has been talk about him having an attitude issue in the past. I think him and Van der Ven could have done much better. I think him and Van der Ven could have done better for the goal. So, as well, it's not like, yeah, the attack was crap, but it's not like Mickey Van der Ven and Djed Spence were faultless. They're walking off as if they're not taking any accountability. You should be taking accountability. Yes, the attack is the problem. You've been 2 of Spurs' best players this season, but you shouldn't be ignoring Thomas Frank because you should be taking accountability because you should have done better for the goal. That's how I feel about it, to be honest. Because, look, this could be nothing. Thomas Frank could address it midweek. Tottenham could bounce back with a win midweek and maybe beat Man United. Hopefully not. And you guys could be all happy going into the international break and all good. But when players ignore the manager publicly, it signals cracks in the dressing room. This never happened under Ange. Ange was playing some of the worst, most open football, completely exposing your defence. And you always had the players on side. And you give credit to Ange for that. When you were 15th, when you were losing games, he always had the players on side. He had the players' belief that they were going to win the trophy. If Thomas Frank has lost the players, despite you being in 5th place, 3 months into his reign, where he has not had 3 of his best attackers, he doesn't have a good attack. He's got to choose between Tell, Odegaard and Richarlison half the time. Colin Mwani's come in and looked okay. Xavi Simons isn't up to scratch yet. I also think you used to have Son and Kane in attack. You got Tell and Richarlison. You've gone from Son and Kane to Tell and Richarlison. Also, Big difference. Oh, Brennan Johnson's there as well, of course. Your squad lacks leaders. Your squad doesn't have great attacking quality. Thomas Frank could do different things. Benzica and Palinha, defensively fine, but gives you nothing going forward. Why don't you try Palinha, Bergvall, Sarr midfield three? Palinha, Bergvall, Sarr. Why don't you try it? Because Thomas Frank needs to make changes. Don't get me wrong. He needs to make changes. You're 5th place, you're defensively good, you're scoring set pieces, you've actually got the 3rd most amount of goals in the league, but you're not creative. You're not creating, it doesn't feel sustainable. The football isn't good. But your defence is fine. Your midfield needs some working on. I think he could change the midfield. I think Bergvall coming up was a big blow. I think Bergvall was your best player last season. Bergvall needs to be playing. I think Bergvall over Bentancur in an 8 role. Sarr and Xavi Simons can battle out for the 10 because Xavi Simons showed glimpses, but he needs a bit of confidence. You need Semenyo, you need Adam Wharton, you need Solanke back fit. Let's see what Colomboani can do. That's what you need. But the players are turning on him, and that's not good. And if I'm a Tottenham fan, I'd sit here saying, am I happy with the football we're playing under Thomas Frank? No. Does Thomas Frank need to change and improve? Yes. But would I be taking the player side? Absolutely not. I'd be saying this is a new manager. This is a manager that has us in 5th, became 17th last season. We have improved this season defensively, just not going forward, and we're probably more boring to watch. But I'd be saying F my players. Show some respect to the manager. You are not bigger than the club. You are not bigger than the club. Now, Mickey van der Ven was not the reason you finished 17th last season. Don't get me wrong, either was Djed Spence. But nobody should be bigger than Tottenham. Nobody at your club should feel that they are bigger than Tottenham, better than the manager. And I've seen Thomas Frank get a lot of stick. Some of it fair, some of it unfair. I think some people are so desperate to be right that Ange shouldn't have been sacked that they are instantly hating on Thomas Frank after any excuse in the fan base, which is crazy from some Tottenham fans. But it is bad. Thomas Frank said, I've never been in charge of a team that created that little. Not a single shot on target in the second half despite trailing. Spurs can barely get a shot off when behind. The attacking foot was awful. The bottom bit is what I put. The top bit is the quote with the quotation marks. Your attacking football stinks. He said, probably not just one answer, that's one thing for sure. Tottenham's XG total, 0.05 this evening, was the lowest on record since they've recorded XG since 2012. Chelsea outdid and embarrassed Tottenham. They absolutely outdid and embarrassed Tottenham. It was appalling. Tottenham's stat was appalling. Tottenham going forward was appalling. The only player that looks like they might do something is Kudus. If Kudus gets injured, because Kudus going to come back, but he'll take a couple months to get up to scratch. Maddison ain't going to come back soon. When's Solanke back? He will need some time. Colomboani, I thought, looked all right. But on-field issues. Performance is bad. It's uninspired. It's passive. There's no aggression. There's no pressure. There's no urgency. It was athletes versus pedestrians. I saw someone say that. That's not just on Thomas Frank. That's on the players. Those players didn't give 100% versus Chelsea. You can criticise Thomas Frank for tactics all you want, but those Spurs players aren't playing for Thomas Frank, some of them, in my opinion. And I'm seeing a lot of negativity around Thomas Frank, a lot of Tottenham fans turning on him. But I think I'd be pissed off at the players. I wouldn't be happy with the football. It's boring. You're not scoring goals, you're not creating. But you're 5th place. This is a good manager. You don't have a great attack. What can he do? You've gone from Kane and Son to Brennan Johnson and Richarlison. It's a big downgrade. But I look at it right now, and those Spurs players could have given more. It wasn't just the tactical setup. Those Tottenham players couldn't give them more. And I don't know if the dressing room's lost, but I think it was bad look from the players. Because you look solid defensively, you look lifeless creative-wise. You're scared to take risks, sideways passes, backwards passes. I do think there's a lack of confidence. Xavi Simons on the stick. He's going to make the sideways and backward pass rather than trying that dribble that he was so good at Leipzig, for example. You're breaking records, bad records. Other than Kudus, there's no spark. Maybe confidence is a thing. Maybe momentum is a thing. But I do think Thomas Frank needs to change it, the pivot. But I also think, these players need to give more. I think there's a few players that come on and they'll give everything, like Sarr. He'll run and run and run. Those Tottenham players need to give this manager more. Now, I've seen things like this. This got over 1,000 likes. I will never expect Tottenham saying so cowardly. This project doesn't deserve time. That's not to say it's over, but Thomas Frank needs to amend this, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people very negative on Thomas Frank. I get why Tottenham fans are unhappy. 17th, you're 5th now. Do I think Tottenham will finish the season in 5th place? No. But would you rather come 17th play attacking football but be a mess at the back, or finish 5th and be boring? Because I'd rather finish 5th and be boring. And that gets Champions League next season. And then that gives you the budget and the pool to get the players you need in attack to be better next season. My opinion. There is progress under Frank. Set pieces, so much better. Defensively, structure, so much better. Your two issues, build-up, central build-up. Outside of Romero, non-existent. And attack, creativity. And those two can go together because better build-up means you move the ball quicker, which means you move the ball quicker up the pitch, which means you can exploit more spaces, which can be better in attack. So those two do go together. But he's brought off the ball. He now needs to bring on the ball. But he doesn't have the players for that. Thomas Frank does not have good enough players to do what Spurs fans want him to do. I don't think the football's great. I think he could make adaptations. I think he could make changes. But before this week, you'd only lost 2 games. Before this week, you'd only lost 2 games. You'd have beat Everton 3-0. And you'd only lost 2 games before this week. So, and that would have been Villa, who were in good form, and Bournemouth, who were one of the best teams in the league. I know they just lost to City. So there's a lot of negativity around Spurs. But they only lost 2 games before this week, and then they lose 2 games in a row. And, I'm seeing Spurs fans who didn't want Ange gone turn on Thomas Frank. And it's almost like they're so annoyed that Ange got sacked that they don't want Thomas Frank to succeed, which I think is weird. Now, Thomas Frank himself was actually asked about the fans being concerned about the lack of attacking football from the team right now. And Frank says this. I keep saying it. We have a front four that is new. We need time to build together with short turnarounds in between games. We'll do that. I'm in no doubt it'll happen. Every team I've coached has scored a lot of goals. It will happen in the future. I don't think it's necessarily they need time. I think it's necessarily he needs better players. I think if you'd have signed Mbeumo, Semenyo, and Koulibaly was fit and firing, ready to go to your front three, and you had Kulu, Kulu, Xavi, and Maddison as options to go in the 10, I think you'd be looking very different. I do think maybe when you're struggling to break down teams, stop with Palhinha and Bentica, maybe play Bergvall deeper because he's better on the ball. But I do think this Thomas Frank out is a bit excessive from fans. I think it's very early days. I think it's not good football. I get why fans are frustrated. But I think it's too early for Tottenham fans to be saying Thomas Frank out. You're 5th in the league at the end of the day. And look, you've got to be patient. You've got to be patient. It's not an overnight project. Now, the disrespect from Spence and Van der Ven needs to be dealt with. Spurs need leaders. Spurs need their players to stand by the manager, not walk past him. Because that's important. Fans need to remember where the club was last season and that you can't be perfect in 1 year and that your attack is lacking. I think Frank needs time, respect and backing. However, Frank needs to adapt and find ways to play better football because he's struggling with that. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. Bye.